I became aware of a pretty brilliant book called Climate and Energy, The Case for Realism. And boy, do we need realism. We need clarity. We need transparency. We need facts. And this book is fascinating. It's been described as a must-read for every open-minded person who's trying to seek clarity on the pretty complicated issue of climate change. There's a lot of hysteria. There's a lot of insistence that the whole climate debate is settled. It's science. It's over. And then along comes a book co-edited by our guest, E. Calvin Beisner, who's the president of the Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation. He's an interdisciplinary scholar in philosophy, religion, economics, the history of political thought, and environmental ethics. And he joins us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. I am about halfway through the book, and it's fascinating. It's eye-opening. It's important. So first of all, thank you for joining us, sir. And you must be awfully proud of the response that Climate and Energy, The Case for Realism, is receiving so far.
Yeah, we are. It's really quite amazing, but it's not terribly surprising to me because, frankly, I think a lot of people all over this country and around the world have had about enough of all the claims of, catastrophe around the corner, climate change is an existential threat, and so on. And they're saying to themselves, look, we've been told this now for 30-some years, and it's just not happening. Yeah, is climate changing a little bit here and there? Yes. Is global average temperature rising a little bit? But yes. Does human activity probably contribute to it? Yes, I think so. And so do all the contributors to this book. But here's one really easy way to undermine the catastrophist narrative. You go to the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And in 2018, it published a special report on global warming of 1.8 degrees. And, 1.5 degrees. And in that report, it said that if we did absolutely nothing to slow global warming, we would, at the end of this century, see average income, average gross global world product, okay, almost 9 times what it is today. In other words, people will be far, far better off at the end of this century than they are now, even if we did nothing to slow global warming. And as a matter of fact, the more we try to slow global warming, the more it's going to cost us, and the worse off people will be. Well, climate is a far smaller threat to human health and well-being than anything, than poverty itself. And so what we need to see is a continued rise in prosperity around the world, and that is achieved not by fighting climate change, but by adapting to it.
And of course, the flip side of the rather common sense scenario you just laid out is that climate is responsible for mass migration. Climate is responsible for people fleeing their country. It's the existential threat that we face, according to Joe Biden. It's responsible for everything, including my Aunt Mary's gout. I mean, climate change is blamed for everything. And there's an expression that is often used these days called gaslighting. Here's an analogy. I saw the New York Times wrote an extensive piece about how 4 years ago today, 4 years ago this time, is when they started closing all the schools down. And many schools in the blue states, for sure, stayed closed for the better part of a year. Now, the New York Times comes up with a big piece today. It was very destructive. It shouldn't have happened. It didn't really do anything in terms of public health or safety for the kids, and it actually harmed children. Now, people have been saying this for years, and yet here along comes the New York Times, almost as if to say, the jig's up, you got us. It was wrong all along. In many ways, as I'm reading this book, which again is a fascinating read, especially considering how individual climate scientists write a number of chapters. You and your co-editor, do an introduction to the book's purpose and frame the issue in the first two chapters. But isn't it kind of the same thing with the whole debate about climate? It's as if years from now they're going to look back and they're going to say, yeah, all the panic and all the hysteria, well, never mind, not so much. Do you see an analogy there, Cal Beisner?
Yeah, I think so. One really interesting thing just happened recently, and that was the publication of a brand new book by Mike Hume, who was a director of the Climate Research Institute at the University of East Anglia back at the time of ClimateGate, you remember, in 2009
Sure.
and 11. Hume has been one of the most important pushers of the climate catastrophist narrative. But he just published a new book called Climate Change Isn't Everything. And it's fascinating because you can go through this book and over again, you find him saying things that are very, very similar to what we're saying in our book. And yet they're the opposite of what he's been saying for the last 20 years. I think what we're seeing is the beginning of an adjustment on the part of the catastrophists to realize, no, we haven't made our case. The facts simply disagree. The notion, for instance, that we are seeing an increase in the frequency or intensity of extreme weather events because of climate change. That's what computer models predict, but it's not what real-world empirical observation has been finding. There has been no such increase in the frequency or intensity of any extreme weather events. That's how, little by little, real science is going to push aside the fake science of speculation and computer modeling substituting for empirical observation.
Our guest is Cal Beisner. He's the co-editor of the book Climate and Energy, The Case for Realism, of just a fascinating read. And it's out now. There's also an opportunity for people to get their hands on the book for free. There's a nice thank you gesture from the Cornwall Alliance. Can you kind of walk our audience through that so people can obtain a copy of this terrific book?
Absolutely. Thanks for the chance. We at the Cornwall Alliance, as our way of saying thank you when people give any amount, doesn't matter how large or small, and request Climate and Energy, The Case for Realism, as our way of saying thank you, we'll send them a free copy, and the gift will be 100% tax deductible. So all they have to do is go to cornwallalliance.org, that's cornwallalliance.org, click on the donate button, and as you fill out the donation form, enter in, please send Climate and Energy, The Case for Realism. We'll be glad to send it.
That's what a great opportunity for somebody to read this important book and also help advance the work that the Cornwall Alliance is doing. Cal, you've been in this space for many years. Again, you're described as an interdisciplinary scholar in philosophy, religion, economics, the history of political thought, environmental ethics. How's the scientific community receiving this book? Are you getting a lot of pushback? Are you getting support? Is it mixed? What's the response been?
Well, we've had a bunch of really outstanding endorsements, comments from a variety of different leading physicists, chemists, geologists, climate scientists, on and on. In fact, I think it's about the first 5 or 6 pages of the book just simply include these endorsements by outstanding scientists, some of the top in the world. I think that's going to continue. I mean, this is the first day that the book has actually been released. So you were able to get it in advance, and so were some other folks. But I think we're going to see a really good response to this. You know, we are not climate deniers. We're not science deniers, anything like that. We are a collection of outstanding scientists, climate scientists, 9 of us, economists specializing in energy economics, energy engineers, energy policy experts, ethicists, all of us putting our different perspectives together into something that really calls for realism, for common sense, instead of the kind of, the sky is falling mentality that has dominated so much of this conversation.
Realism and common sense is in short supply these days, and that's why I'm so grateful for the book and grateful to share with our audience how you can get your hands on it absolutely for free as a thank you for your support of the Cornwall Alliance, cornwallalliance.org. Just go to cornwallalliance.org, and with any gift of any size, they'll send you a free copy of the book as a token of their appreciation. Cal Beisner, my appreciation for you sharing this story. And again, I'm halfway through the book. I'm finding it riveting and important.
Wonderful.
Clarity is everything. So congratulations on the book. Keep fighting the good fight, and I appreciate you joining us here on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Mike, thanks very much. God bless.
All the best. God bless. Take care. Cal Beisner joining us here in the Relief Factor studios.